Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
Welcome to the party, pal!
Welcome to Yippee-ki-yay Classic. I'm Ralph Quartucci.
I'm Sean Paul Murphy.
I'm Debbie Murphy.
I'm Michelle Wojciechowski.
I'm Brad Barowie.
I'm John Quattrucci.
And I'm Drew Gould.
Okay, so Debbie, we have someone in the corner.
Wait, there's someone here. Who's that down in the corner?
Please introduce.
This is my very good friend, Jenna Healy Globe. She lives in Minnesota. We saw the movie together in Minnesota, whilst my husband and her were writing on a screenplay, Texas Two-Step.
Well, what's the film? What's the film we're watching? What we're going to talk about tonight?
In Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Okay, so Jenna was writing a script with Sean. We're not going to let Sean talk about it. And while in Minnesota,
Well, what if it ties into tonight's movie?
Unless it ties in.
Oh, well.
He can tie into any movie, Brad. You know that.
So while in Minnesota, you guys saw this at a movie theater.
Yes.
Okay.
I remember those.
Just want to get that. Yeah, that was good times.
Yeah, they were writing it. It was interesting out there because Sean and Jenna, they're both creative, very creative. And Sean has a certain way of doing things, and Jenna has a certain way of doing things. And they got into
you can't just. What does that mean exactly?
I want to get into some detail on that about the way they
still
each do
alive,
things.
so that's good.
So
But
let's go to the movies.
Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that today Charles Grodin passed away.
Yeah,
it's a litmus
Oh, I didn't
configuration.
realize that.
Are you doing the litmus configuration?
Just want to bring his
very
name
sad.
up. He's I like the Heartbreak Kid and
Jenna and I
Kong.
killed him.
King
Which
Kong.
we did Midnight Run. Well, we never did Midnight Run, did we? We were going to do Midnight
supposed to
King
do that
Kong,
on-
1976 King Kong.
but we watched
Yeah,
it.
the remake.
Good
Not the original, Ralph.
the good
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So I just
Would've
want to
been
acknowledge
Sperm.
Mr. Grodin's passing, and before we get on and start
He's a good
talking about the
actor.
film. So, all right. So the film is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes.
You want to, Debbie, brief description?
Well, it's a fairy tale, and it's a lovely fairy tale. And when we saw it, it was just what we needed. It's like a dose of medicine. And I think it's particularly good to watch it because now it's just delightful how Quentin Tarantino, this is his 9th film, and I didn't appreciate him to the extent as I did on this movie. It's the only movie I kind of liked Django Unchained. I kind of liked it. Huh?
Unchained.
Oh, Unchained. I know
The Unchained
I don't know what it's
would be
called,
the
but
prequel, I guess.
John, would you please not interrupt Debbie while she's in the middle of something, please? God.
John is very protective of
I know
that.
Always
you're
a
in my
rewrite.
corner.
Debbie, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was riveted. Go ahead.
Jenna, you definitely are in my corner. But I just, this movie is so, I fell in love with Quentin Tarantino
On this film. So had you
on
seen
this film.
you said Django, but have you seen any of his other films?
Yes.
Oh. And you didn't like the other
I
film.
like the way
Yes.
she said
I
it.
don't
So
like
what
that.
made you think you could walk into this one and you'd like this one?
It was totally different. It was very sweet and
I know you figured that
What
out
made you
after
think
seeing
you
it,
all
but
couldn't see it? What made-
I didn't know, everybody said, let's go see it because Jenna, I think you suggested it, right?
Probably. I mean, yeah, because it had just come out and I love him and I'm a writer and I wanted to see it. And you guys were here. So, yeah.
now, Jenna, had you seen his other films
Yes. Mhm.
and liked them or didn't like them?
I really like him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised, Debbie, you'd walk
Did
into
you
a
like
film.
Pulp Fiction, Jenna?
Yes,
What?
I did.
That is, in fact,
I don't
a film
understand that,
by
Quentin.
Quentin
Famous
Tarantino.
Debbie
Thank you.
look.
It's confused for me because she is such a sweet person, I mean, not that I guess it's the cussing and the violence and the bloody,
Well, it's a good
that
thing
is
there's,
what we
there's
didn't
nothing
have.
violent in this movie, though.
Yeah, there's no cussing and violence
good
in this
thing.
film. at
but
all.
they were really evil. They had a guy, in our minds, right?
Well,
No,
let's.
that was very upsetting
Oh,
when some of
well,
those.
we
bad
should-
I
guys
think if
died.
they had called Pulp Fiction a happy fairy tale, Debbie would have liked it.
Well, Brad Pitt killed his wife in here, so,
Nah,
Yeah.
No, we don't know.
Well,
We don't know.
So allegedly,
supposedly killed his
we
wife.
never saw that, so we can't go there.
Every scene had special meaning to me. But my favorite scene, though, I'll start with my favorite scene, is when Rick Dalton, Leonardo DiCaprio, was going to have a scene with the little girl. And he was sort of like failing as an actor. And he did such a good job that the little girl, even the cynical little girl who was supposed to be 9 years old and she acted like she was 25, she said, that was the best acting I've ever seen in my whole life. Right away, that's what that actor needed at that time. It was just so precious, that scene, and showed how acting is probably a very difficult job to do. It just showed so many things. The acting was, everybody participated, and it was so fantastic. It took a story that we all know, about the family of
Manson.
The Manson family.
Crazy Manson, and just as if it didn't happen, and it kind of was a healing for us, I think, because I would like to think that 9/11 didn't happen, and I would like to think that that incident didn't happen. It's just,
there's a lot of details too that this is loosely based on Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham.
Yeah.
They were partners like these two, where Hal Needham, who was the director of Hooper, I think, and Smokey and the Bandit and stuff, and Quentin Tarantino's named after a character, Burt Reynolds' character in one of his shows called Quentin. I forget the one. So it's kind of loosely based on their relationship. And Tarantino grew up. This is 1969. He was living in LA at the time. And I think he looked at this as the last moment before the world just went crazy. And this is a love letter to Hollywood as much as it is to
And Burt Reynolds was in it till he died.
yeah, that's where
Bruce Dern took his part.
the Spawn Ranch guy.
Yeah.
The guy who owns Spawn Ranch.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of connections for Tarantino. And you can see that the way he shot this film, the loving shots of Hollywood and the driving and all that stuff. It's just beautiful. But like you're saying, this is a fairy tale for him. And he wished it never, what happened, he wished it never happened. And it's clear he was in love with Sharon Tate, just the way he shot her and just the way she became the focus of the film. I don't want to dive into what you're saying, but I just wanted to let you know there's a lot of history that's involved. As a matter of fact, some of the clips, there's an FBI clip that when Cliff and what's his name are watching. By the way, I thought Brad Pitt did a better job than DiCaprio in this film.
Well, that's because you're an editor, not an actor, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. I was watching him more than the other guy.
Yeah, because
anyway,
you want him. That's why.
You have a man crush on him.
does.
You want
Huge,
Brad
huge.
Pitt. Okay,
Yes,
and that's
exactly.
fine.
Well, I love Brad Pitt. I think he did an excellent job. And
But that scene where they're watching the FBI show
Is a
and
real
it's out of
FBI
the
show.
truck with
Yeah.
the gun, that's his face superimposed over
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds in that show. As well as when they do that whole Great Escape thing,
Yeah.
and they superimposed his face over Steve McQueen. I mean, he did a lot of things in this. It's just amazing. Anyway, I don't want to take all the time up, but continue, Debbie.
well, I loved also the scene when he comes into the Nazi camp, and he says, "You want some fried sauerkraut?" And he's got his blowtorch, and he's torching him. That's the flamethrower.
But
That's
the only stunt he actually said he did, right? That one.
Yeah.
it was just what you always wanted to do to a Nazi, you know?
It was a
Oh,
little
and that's
homage
also-
to Inglorious Bastards.
Right. There's an homage to that as well. His own film. He did an homage to his own
He's
film.
doing an homage to his
A
own.
lot of
Um,
homages.
Another history-changing movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Who hadn't seen this film before we watched it for this? Everybody had seen it? Okay, cool.
Wow, that's a rarity.
Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in?
Well, is
Jenna.
Debbie done?
Jenna,
Is Debbie done?
we
You've
can
cut
bounce
off.
back.
You've cut her off halfway. I just
We
want to
can
make
bounce back. How do you know it's halfway? You don't even know that.
because I know Debbie.
We've only just begun. Karen Carpenter. We've only
He
just
hasn't
begun.
addressed the spiritual aspect of the film.
Debbie,
the
I'm
DNA.
curious.
or
I
the
was just
metaphysical
curious.
aspect.
This is
so
a pretty
there's still
contemporary
time.
movie to pick. What made you pick this? That was what I was kind of curious about. What made you pick this movie? for the
okay,
show?
the way it worked, I was going to do
Working Girl.
Working Girl, and I love that movie.
Yep.
And then something happened. What happened?
We were watching Echoes in the Valley, and they were showing scenes
Oh,
from the
and
movie Model Shop.
and Model Shop, and I said, oh, wait a minute, I've seen that movie. Isn't that Once Upon a Time? And then I remembered how great that time was when we came out there, and we were there for what, 5 days, Jenna? We visited you for 5 days, and it was just so wonderful to see that movie that summer before COVID.
And I tell you, I think if you look at Models, I'd have to watch Model Shop again, but I think that must have been a big. Has anyone seen that film?
I never heard of it.
It was by a French director. It's about a guy who's going to be drafted to go to Vietnam. He spends the last day. There were places where you could like take photographs, even like nude photographs of women. You pay, you go and you take with your own camera and take pictures. It's about a guy who falls in love with a model, but he lived in a junky house that had an oil derrick right outside like this. Yeah. I think he may have driven around in a Carmen Ghia too, like Brad Pitt. There's a lot of similarities between some of the background that you see in Model Shop in this movie, though he's never mentioned it as a reference. But that, if you want to see LA in like 1969, I think that was 1969, maybe 1968, Model Shop really is a loving homage to LA.
Well, Tarantino's he's not opposed to using other films in his own film. So this may have been a good, film for him to look at and use.
This is, well, I'm going to jump in if Debbie's jumped out.
Is she done?
Or Debbie.
Everyone just let Debbie not talk.
No, Deb is done. All right, let's move on. Okay, everybody. Jeez.
Deb is done. So no, I respect Quentin Tarantino, but I don't own many of his films. I don't own this one, but I will be buying it once we get back from something we're doing, because I love this movie, and it's got layers I feel I haven't even got to yet watching it. But I'm one of the older members of the podcast. I was alive in 1969, and just the whole vibe of it, the clothes, the look of it, and the songs on the radio and the commercials, because this wasn't one of those films where every song on the radio is a big hit. A lot of these songs were very minor hits, and there are a couple of them I probably had not heard since 1969 until this movie played, and I'm like, oh, I got to stay and see what was the title of that song, because I want to put it in one of my playlists. I mean, I loved the nostalgia of it. I loved the relationship between the two guys. I think Leonardo DiCaprio was perfect in his role as narcissistic, insecure actor, and Brad Pitt was fabulous as the stuntman. Brad never really, even though he complains one time about his career being over because he's not working, he seems perfectly happy with his place in the universe. He's living on a day-to-day basis. He's got a dog that really loves him. That scene where he's feeding the dog the first time, that would be a scene, most movies, that would be, of course, it's a big scene because that dog's going to come in handy later. But that was such a well-done scene, and that dog is so terrific. It's a great film. I love I really think that Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate is sort of like the heart of the film. She's like, she expresses the innocence of, this generation, the hippie generation, as they were coming to power in Hollywood, until everything changed. So she's going through joyfully.
I don't know the hippies. Okay, here's the thing. Hippies, they were some of the, to be called a hippie, you had to be like the Dirty Feet, and that really wasn't a scene that was not a good scene.
The feet? Are we into the feet
Dirty
now?
Feet.
Well, Tarantino loves feet.
Yeah, he does
I want to
love
talk
feet.
about the scene. There were multiple feet.
Well, they had the one
There
set
were
of,
lots of dirty
Yeah.
feet in that movie.
And that-
well, yeah, the
that
hippies
made
that were
them-
stealing out of the dumpster, right? And that's the
Yeah.
woman that
that
Cliff ends up meeting and taking back to the Spawn Ranch, which is a great scene.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love that it's sort of like every time the movie seems utterly carefree, there's just a little hint of Manson in the family.
Well, the scene, the Spawn Ranch scene in particular,
was really tense.
was tense from the minute he walked on that
Yeah.
ranch until he left. And even when he left, and the whole premise of the film, going in that the thing that's going to happen at the end is going to happen. You just don't know what Tarantino's going to do with it, because what he did in Inglourious Basterds is he flipped history around, and you're wondering what he's going to do. And I'll talk about that after, because the way he used the narration to set up what he was going to do, and then it didn't. Jen is a writer as well, right? That's you and Sean are partners.
Yep.
Give us some, from a writer's perspective, what are some of the, Sean was mentioning themes, and even Debbie mentioned it's buried with a bunch of themes. When you saw this, what was your take on this film?
I really had no expectations going in other than it was a Tarantino film. And so I, like Sean was mentioning about introducing Brandy the dog and Cliff together. I mean, just that scene, like writing that scene, how we know their relationship just by how he gets her dinner ready. And there was so much in that. I feel like, gosh, I don't know. I have so much I want to say about this. I love how he wrote Leo's character. He's so cheesy, but he's so believable as being cheesy. I think the scene in the trailer where he loses his shit is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. I mean,
That's a good one.
my favorite scene. It was so funny.
But not scripted. That wasn't scripted. That was improvised by him.
That was improvised by him.
Yeah.
What an actor. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
I mean,
Well, not as good as Brad Pitt, because Brad Pitt's got the guns rough.
but I mean, you're right. I mean, when they went to Spawn Ranch, I mean, the tension there.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like this the whole time because I
Yeah.
thought for sure he was going to be killed. I mean,
Right.
yeah, it was so good. And even though it's like, that he's not going to die because he's going to be in the rest of the movie. His role isn't finished yet. You just expected it at any second. I love the scene with Bruce Lee. And I had actually read that Bruce Lee used to beat the shit out of stunt doubles in his movies. So this was, again, Tarantino flipping the script and showing Bruce getting beat up. And just growing up as a little kid, I had an uncle who showed me all the Bruce Lee movies. So, there was some stuff I wasn't totally familiar with. I had just seen, in movies, but Bruce Lee was a character that I had grown up watching. And so that was really cool.
Can I jump in on that scene? Just for a
Correction.
second?
No one kicked his ass.
Well, here's what I
No one is kicking-
No one
like
kicked
Mike.
Bruce's ass.
If you guys remember how that scene works out, that scene starts with Brad Pitt doing that stuff he does to get up on the roof and fix the antenna, right?
Right.
Right, when he
It's a
takes his shirt off.
flashback inside
Takes
of a
his shirt off.
flashback.
Yeah,
He
Ralph, when he
does
took his shirt off real
The
slow.
parkour. You guys are way more obsessed than I am, but okay.
Oh, really? Look at you lighting up like a Christmas tree just thinking about it.
My point is that scene with and this is my point about the film. That scene is Cliff remembering that scene,
Yeah.
Right.
because there's things that happen in that scene that probably in real life wouldn't happen. Like when he gets slammed against the car in the car, it's like his recollection of what happened that day. Because even when he's done, he goes, "Oh, I guess I kind of messed that up." And I think a lot of this film is Cliff's recollections of like his wife with the harpoon and all that. It's kind of Cliff to me is the center of this film.
Yes.
And obviously, at the end, Cliff becomes definitely the center of the film. But I think, again, these are like, because Bruce Lee never got beat up by anybody. And Cliff is remembering that he did. I just found it interesting. That's another layer that Tarantino put in there to kind of just keep you a little bit.
Wait. Okay, just so I'm clear on this. You think that was his recollection of what happened, but it probably didn't happen that way? Is that what
You're
I
saying
don't
he's
think
an
it-
unreliable narrator?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't read that into it at all.
Well,
I
that's
read
how- that's how-
when he was done with the scene, he said, "Yeah, I really screwed up because I went overboard by throwing him into it." And
But
that's
again,
why they
some
won't
of the
work
stuff
with
that
him.
happened in there was over the top.
Yeah, I don't read that.
The
I
whole
didn't read
"What?"
that
You
into
know.
it.
Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
Jenna,
And he took a
I'm
lot of
sorry.
heat for that. He took a lot of heat for that scene.
I know, for making
for people
Bruce Lee
involved
look
with
bad. Right.
Bruce Lee, saying Bruce Lee would never say he could beat up Muhammad Ali, but it was in a biography that the wife wrote, that line. So Tarantino had to defend that in a couple of interviews about the way he portrayed.
Well, he had to
and he said he
defend-
did it tongue in cheek.
Listen, he had to defend
he
using
loves
Sharon
Bruce
Tate.
Lee.
He had to defend the whole movie. I mean,
Well, the
he had to get
sister,
Yeah,
that
he got
okay.
attacked for for Margot Robbie had not having enough lines. I think it was a New York Times report.
Right. There was a whole, there was
accused him of
something.
being
Yeah, he was asked that
misogynistic
question.
for not
Anyway, I'm
giving
sorry,
Margot
Jen. I didn't
Robbie
mean to
enough
take
lines.
you off, but I just wanted to jump in a little bit. But
No,
Drew,
that's
Drew,
fine.
Drew, what were you going to say? I heard you.
I was
about
going to say, you know, what Jenna said, I think is what you said is important. That scene at Spawn Ranch, I like this movie. Some of it feels like minor Tarantino to me, and I love his movies. The ending is one of my favorite movie endings of any movie ever. But you know, the later Tarantino where he changes history, where Hitler dies, which, you know, that's wonderful, where slaves get revenge, also wonderful. You mentioned that Brad Pitt's not going to die in the Spawn Ranch scene, but you don't feel that when you're watching it.
Right.
But of course,
That's
you spend
true.
the whole movie knowing it's so tragic that Sharon Tate is going to die,
Right.
except she doesn't.
Right.
And it's so exhilarating to hear her voice on the box at the end after this completely insane violence.
I did not
Right.
find that exhilarating at all. I found that really super sad.
So I don't like this movie at all.
All right, here we go.
So I just thought I would stop this love fest.
None of it.
Good.
You didn't like any of it.
I like two things. I like Timothy Oliphant because he could read the phone book, and I will watch Timothy.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
I
Yeah, he was
really
good.
enjoy him. And Brad Pitt took his shirt off. That is it. And you know I am not.
So those are
usually
the two
one-
things you liked about it.
I'll tell you, and it's not that, you know, I liked Pulp Fiction. We watched this movie,
About a year ago.
yeah, about whenever
Wait, can I
it
ask
was
a
up for the
question?
SAG.
When you say you didn't like it, did both of you not like it, or are you speaking? For
No,
yourself?
I didn't like it so much. I refused to watch it again before tonight. That's how much I did not like this movie.
Well, here's the thing. So when Debbie said we were going to watch it, I thought, okay, we just saw that. It's almost 3 hours. I don't know if I want to watch that again, but I did end up watching it. I think I liked it a little more this time than I did the last time.
He liked it more than I
But
did.
I don't get the all over Quentin Tarantino. I don't know. He just doesn't appeal to me the way he appeals to other
See,
people.
maybe if I had known some of
There were some good parts
some
of
of the
the movie.
background that you guys were giving, like this was based on this and this was based on that. Maybe perhaps if I had known that, and perhaps if I had watched the movie again, knowing that, I would have enjoyed it more. But I just was like, oh my, Ralph, you can roll your eyes all you want.
I'm
but-
thinking of something right now. I was going to ask a
But
question.
The
You
thing
shouldn't
is,
be
like-
thinking.
like,
You should be
when he
listening to
couldn't-
her.
when he couldn't remember his lines and the scene was so long and I'm just like, oh my God, what are we doing? Why are we watching this? What is the point of this whole story? And
Well,
I guess
think
the
that
point
scene
was
I think that scene is typical in letting it all out because actors, you know, we all have our opinions of actors, but that's a very hard job to do, you know, to read.
But they could have
John,
gotten
you
the
know,
point
you're an
across in
actor.
that scene
Is there
with
more?
5+ minutes.
The love of
And
The
Debbie,
scene
you've
just
done
went
some
way
acting,
too long. I
right?
think I got the point. He was
It's
messing
hard.
his lines up.
And
So
when
that's what I feel like a lot of this movie. I mean, I didn't hate the movie. There were parts of it I liked. I thought there were some funny
I
parts.
should put that one on the posters, Brad.
Jenna,
I didn't hate it.
right next to my wife couldn't stand it.
and Jenna, I know you said your favorite scene was the Bruce Lee scene. One of the first things I thought
One
was
of them.
this scene didn't even need to be in the movie. I don't know why it was in the movie.
What's he?
And then
What?
you explained a little bit of
Bruce Lee.
his.
Now that we
Flipping
know
that-
this background that he was
But-
flipping stuff around, perhaps if I had
But
known that.
I just felt like some of the scenes you were all talking about the tension of him going up to the house and how long, and it wasn't tense for me. It was, come on, get this over with. It's taking too long.
Wow.
Wow, man.
Um,
Now you
I'm
guys had
shocked.
no interest. So the Manson angle, the Manson Sharon Tate
It,
angle.
it has some interesting points. Yeah,
it-
look, the scenery, like the time, like the nostalgia and all. It was neat stuff, and it was shot very well. You know, all that. The Manson stuff, it was an interesting angle to it.
Because I had some young friends who saw the film who had no clue about what the
sure.
Manson issue was.
Oh yeah, I've known about.
And I
Well, the
think
funny
going
thing
in-
is, we just watched. We've been watching Mindhunter,
That's he same actor played.
and they
Manson
talk,
in
and
both.
they were just talking. And they.
But
talked
my
to Manson
point
in
is,
there
if
and
you don't
everything.
know that going in, I just wonder if it holds the same impact.
Yeah.
Spawn Ranch and all the
Well,
other
like you're
things. that
you're
happen.
explaining
yeah,
a lot
I mean-
of his impetus for putting a lot of this stuff in the movie. I didn't know any of that, so that might have given me a different
It
perspective.
might
on
have
it.
made me.
But
He
all you
liked
guys
it,
got to
like I
do is
said,
go to IMDb. That's it. Look at
Hey,
IMDb.
let's
But
play
I-
a game called Screw Off. Screw Off.
It's so
kidding.
mean.
I'm
Tarantino.
I'm so
Tarantino is steeped in movies. Like that.
Right, that's all he writes.
He lives
Right.
and breathes movies. And
But I mean, I
he-
bet he saw
and
that.
the most
Hollywood.
important part of that is that he loves movies. So you can watch Inglorious Bastards and you can love the movie because it's a great drama. It's funny. It's got a little of the old ultra violence that he always delivers. It kills Hitler. Like these are all good things. But you can also look at every movie marquee in the movie, all these shots and angles, all the
Sure,
references
he's in
to
love with
German
Hollywood,
films of
yeah.
the era, all this different stuff. If you like, to me, he's one of those directors. If you dig a movie of his, that's good. You can enjoy it on a variety of different levels, but then you can go learn more about it. You might not know that much about movie history or Hollywood 1969 or any of that kind of stuff. Like I knew about the Manson family. I knew about the Sharon Tate murders. I couldn't have named the people that were killed with her. But those characters were real. And see, that's the other thing I wanted to say. It must be such an incredible pleasure to act for Quentin Tarantino. The stuff that he writes is so incredible. And I'm looking at the cast list. There's like, I didn't even recognize Dakota Fanning, in one
Okay,
scene.
Drew, here's
Squeaky
something
From,
that's
all that kind of
gonna
stuff.
blow your mind. Drew, the guy who played the boyfriend, the old boyfriend with Sharon Tate, was murdered with her.
Yeah.
He was the guy who starred, was written about shampoo with
Yeah, he's
Warren
a
Beatty.
hairdresser.
Yeah.
He's a Hollywood
Right.
He was a
hairdresser.
hairdresser.
No, but it's what Drew's getting at is all these other actors. There are so many little bit parts in that film.
Did you see Cheech Marin?
I
Cheech
did not
Marin.
see Cheech. I
You know,
saw
when they
Skeet.
walk into the bar in Lancer and there's a poker game going on with three people,
See, that's what
the guy
I mean.
who looks over his shoulder is Cheech Marin.
Well,
He's
I
in a
didn't
bunch of
know
Marin
that.
with no
I
line.
didn't catch that.
Look,
Wow.
I can imagine, and some of you on in this conversation have worked as actors. I can imagine the rush of when you actually might get a part and reading a script like this. I mean, the people that are in it, like Julia Butters, she plays Trudy, the 8-year-old girl that we talked about before. She's an American
Fantastic.
housewife. She's very funny. She's great, but the scene is so powerful that when he cries after she tells him he did a good job, I thought that was completely authentic, and that's her performance, that's his performance, and that's the script. And it was really crazy. One of my favorite TV shows is Better Things. That's Pamela Adlon's show on FX. And one of her daughters is Mikey Madison, plays the daughter. And it's teenage girls growing up with a single mom in Los Angeles. Mikey Madison is the girl that gets hit in the face with a dog food can, chewed up by a pit bull, falls in the pool, and then set on fire. And it's so
Spoilers.
different, but the chance to work for Quentin Tarantino must be so exciting. And I'm a big fan of his movies. I don't think all of them are perfect. They're all very
That's not
long,
the point. No.
but it's so satisfying. You go to a concert, you see a musician who's not only really good, but loves what they're doing. This man loves what he's doing. He loves movies. He loves making movies. It boils out of him. And so those of us who've worked in the business or are currently working in the business, it must be really exciting to see somebody at the top of their form like that, because it's very inspiring. Even if you end up not liking an individual movie, you cannot deny the skill of this guy, the craft of this guy. And he has a lot of feet in it and stuff, but it's just these. I don't love
I
this
think
movie,
that's
but
another
it's a good
thing.
movie.
Like I am, how people have feet fetish. I have like feet aversion. Like I don't want to see close-ups of
Well,
feet.
no wonder you
I don't
hate
wanna
this. There's
see
feet
lots of
everywhere.
Feet. And
Sharon Tate's feet, the young hippie girl's feet, they're in there, and
Sharon Tate
you
has
know all the
beautiful
hippies at
feet.
Spawn
Margot
Ranch
Robbie has
were all-
beautiful feet.
Spawn Ranch hippies were all children of movie stars. That whole group that was sitting on the porch, all the young.
In
ladies.
reality, Ralph,
No, in this film.
in the film.
In the film, he used kids of actors.
Uma
Famous
Thurman's
actors.
daughter was in it.
Uma
Yep.
Thurman's daughter.
Rumor Willis. Or...
The
she's the one
main
who
young
was in-
girl
she's
is.
the
I
one who
thought
was in
that was
Stranger
just a
Things?
rumor.
I can't think of what her.
Ooh, Margaret Qualley as Pussycat. Is that who you're talking
Andy
about?
McDowell's daughter.
That sounds right. Andy McDowell's daughter played Pussycat.
And I love that Luke Perry. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was that
grew
his
up-
last role?
Yeah, I
Was
think
that
it
his
was.
last
last
movie?
role, yeah.
it was.
So
So
that
yeah, I mean, I think people would love to be in a Tarantino film, right? Most would.
Yeah.
So
my
yeah, there's a
problem
lot
with
of
Tarantino-
bid actors in here. Skeet McRaney, is that his name? Skeet. He's one of the
Scoot
guys that gets
McNairy.
shot. Scoot
Scoot
McNairy. Thank
McNairy,
you.
yeah.
You know how I am with names, so that's great.
I'm here
Thank
for you, buddy.
So there's a lot of little bit. There's Curtis. Some guy. There's a guy that's in a bunch of roles in this film, playing different actors in all the Western
Look,
scenes.
every small role is somebody spectacular. Damian Lewis plays Steve McQueen in one scene.
I love that scene. I love that scene.
And that performance is satisfying. And then seeing Leonardo DiCaprio cut into that scene, that's one of my favorite movies. It's just, there's just a love for movies that boils out of
You
this.
never
Okay,
mentioned
John-
Pacino. Pacino was great.
John, jump in, because I kind of want to get down into the last scene, and then what I thought this whole thing meant. But I
Okay,
wanna get
well,
your
for me, Tarantino's hit or miss. I'm not like all in on Tarantino, and it's funny because when I first saw this movie, I thought it was all right. I loved the last half hour of it. I mean, I just loved it because obviously he's setting up with the way Sharon Tate was angelic. I mean, every shot. So it's foreboding, knowing what's coming, right? So that's what he set up. So when he completely flips it on its head, it's great because you know, in his eyes, he wanted her to survive and all this stuff. It was also old Hollywood versus new Hollywood. Now I've watched this movie probably 15 times since I saw it originally, and my appreciation, my appreciation for it is has built a lot more. One, because the recreation of the time period is phenomenal, and I like to throw out little tidbits. He had a fight with people in LA to make the facades look like 1969. They didn't want to do it. Well, they did it, and they loved it so much they kept them because they loved that recreation of the look. And that was, to me, that the recreation of the period was excellent. His writing is always good, even in his bad movies. I think it's very witty dialogue. And I know Brad Pitt won the Oscar, but I think DiCaprio was incredible in this movie. As great an actor as DiCaprio is, and I do think he's a great actor, he's trying to play an actor who's really not that good and play it like that person versus DiCaprio. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Let me finish. Don't interrupt me. You'll have your time. And you're not an actor. I am. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. That's what I mean.
The love of actors, the love
Brad
of
Pitt
doctors
takes his
is
shirt
just
off,
like,
and you're
it's
all
insane.
in on Brad Pitt. Oh, he deserves the Oscar. Look at his pecs. Now I love Brad Pitt in this movie. Don't get me wrong, but it was one note where DiCaprio was up and down in this movie, and you could feel the pain of a guy that was from old Hollywood, and Sharon Tate represented new Hollywood. So I like that part of it. In the ending. But first of all, back to that Spahn Ranch scene, Jen, I agree with you completely. The tension in that scene. First of all, you think the guy's going to be dead, right? They're setting you up with that. He's going to walk in, the guy's going to be dead. But the other thing was you were waiting for someone to jump out with a knife and kill Brad Pitt. The whole time he's in the house, you're waiting for that. The tension was unbelievable. And even when he left, there was tension with all those followers just staring at him. And when he just popped the guy, it was like, wow, it was so cathartic, And a lot of that was to show how badass Brad Pitt's character was. Because even on the boat, he supposedly killed his wife. Well, the way he set it up, the wife is bitching at him, and he's got the harpoon at her waist, right? So to me,
And the
I
boat
was
is
like,
bouncing.
okay, this is how he killed her. But they didn't show it. So, and the ending was a complete shock to me. Not that he reversed it, right? But that entire scene, the way it played out, that he's got the acid cigarette. He doesn't know where he's at, and the guy's holding the gun on him. He goes, "No, it was something. No, it wasn't that stupid. The name. What was your name again? No, it was dumber than that." And then
I'm the devil, and I'm here on the devil's business.
Yeah, which is what they said. Well, the guy really said that when they killed Sharon Tate.
Yeah.
But that scene, because, everyone's talking about the scene where he fed the dog. Well, obviously that was foreshadowing. The dog was going to play an active role in that ending. And when he went, that whole scene was incredible. And then, the only thing because that was Brad Pitt's scene. But they had to throw a bone to DiCaprio. So when he comes out with the flamethrower and just tortures the woman, so he ends up kind of being the hero, even though Brad Pitt did everything. And that's how
that's
that
what
movie
being
ended.
a stuntman. That's what being a stuntman is.
That's exactly right, and that's what I liked. So I really enjoyed this movie a lot more as I watched it more often, because I think the acting in it from everybody was really, really good. And I think a large part of that, to Drew's point, is the scripts that Tarantino gives you. It's not hard to act that, but like we said with Jen, you like that scene in the dressing room that was improvised by DiCaprio. So that wasn't even scripted. So to me, that says a lot about DiCaprio and what he was willing to do and not do, you know? So I like this movie a lot. Again, it's hit or miss with me with Tarantino. This was definitely a hit for me for his you can tell he loves the time period. And again, to Drew's point, he loves movies. And that is so evident. This is a love letter to all of that. And that's why I really like this.
Now, being a non-actor,
yes,
I still think I can have an opinion on
what you can. It can be completely wrong, Ralph.
What the difference between
and the Q brothers fights
what the difference between what Leonardo DiCaprio was doing. Caprio got the showier part. That was very showy to show him that the actors, you know, the mode what an actor gets to. And as an actor, I'm sure you're looking at him going, he's such a hard worker. But as a non-actor, to me, Brad Pitt's stuff that was going on underneath Brad Pitt's part, to me, was stronger, including his rippling muscles when he's driving the car. I just thought was amazing.
Again, there you go. Okay, that's what we're basing.
Yeah, but what I want to get at is what Tarantino did, because I knew he was going to change the timeline going in. That's what I thought. But what he did is he had that narration leading up to that last scene, and it was Kurt Russell doing the narration. 12:01. I knew all the Manson stuff because I'm steeped in that stuff. And I didn't want to see what was going to happen because I knew she was pregnant and I knew what happened. And I'm thinking Tarantino's either he might be pulling the rug out from under us and actually going to show us what happened. And the narration set that up right up until that scene where those people walk into when Brad Pitt sees them when they walk into his place. And it just flipped everything and it was amazing.
Well, it really changed. It really changed when they're in the car talking about Rick Dalton. And how they grew
when
up
Rick
with
came
his
out
TV
with the
show.
margarita thing.
That's right. That's when you knew.
Right.
That's
I understand
when you knew
that
it was diverted. It wasn't.
But
when
still,
he
they were
into the
walking
house.
up. They were walking up the path, and I thought, okay, they're going to go for it. And then he flipped it. And it was just terrific. I mean, I was like, and then to use Vanilla Fudge, that song from Vanilla Fudge in that scene, it's just like, holy cow.
I should have said that's the other thing Tarantino does brilliantly. His soundtracks are unbelievable.
It was insane.
Because, like Sean mentioned, it's not number one hits that he uses. He uses obscure songs that, through his soundtracks, become much more popular than they were when they originally came out. So his use of soundtracks is incredible. His use of music, which means he loves that too. You know.
Yeah. And how's this movie play in Minnesota?
Minnesota. It's Minnesota.
Everyone seemed to like it in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I think they did.
What is it? A different planet?
You think they did?
It's Minnesota.
Kiana, did your husband watch the movie when you rewatched it?
No, he's not. He's not into movies like that. But I do want to, John. I totally agree with you about Leonardo's acting. I first moved to LA many years ago to act, and you're right. Is the type of actor that he is to play this cheesy actor that is trying to be a good actor. Like all those scenes, they were so authentic. And I don't know how he didn't just like bust out laughing sometimes at this character he was playing, because he was so seriously like cheesy, but it was real.
Right.
I thought he did a really good job. I really did. I mean, I think that Brad Pitt did a great job. And they were just different. It was different, but I really do think it was equally good.
Now that scene you're talking about when he's flubbing his lines, they let that stuff roll on and on and on. And I like what Tarantino was doing, where he cut where it's like they're filming it, but there's no way this would be filmed that way. And
it's like 10 setups that they skip.
Yeah. The thing is, with that buildup of that flubbing the lines and everything, that was so humiliating process for the actor. And then to have the reward of that little girl to tell him that he was the best actor ever. That was the setup for the reward that he
to me, about that scene, okay? And I love that scene. I love the little girl in it. But to me, what that scene represented was how low DiCaprio's character was, that a 9-year-old girl says to him, "That's the best acting I've ever seen in my life."
Hey, it doesn't matter how old you are.
His reaction to that line
Yeah.
so overwhelmed by a 9-year-old girl who said, "This is the best acting I've seen in my life." She's only been alive for 9 years.
Yes,
so the
but
way
But doesn't that show you how fragile he is? and
that's
how-
my point.
No,
That's the
no, no,
point
no.
of it.
Come on, how mental.
That's the point.
No, I
of
think
it.
it
No,
does.
Now, didn't he in this film?
He-
Didn't he end up in? Didn't he end up in Italy after
Yeah.
that scene,
Yeah,
Yeah.
doing cheesy Italian movies?
Yeah.
Right. He's a washed-up
Spaghetti
TV star. Is the
westerns?
whole point of that?
that's
thing.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
Sean has got me into watching spaghetti westerns, and they're great.
Well,
But,
some
some
of
of
their
them are
own
great.
level of greatness, but
Well,
they're not.
some-
I mean,
some
I
of them
used
are
to
great.
think they were terrible, but now that I, realize some things.
Once upon a time in the West. Come on. Oh
yeah, he
my
brings
God.
home his Italian wife, and yeah.
Exactly. But
I also thought, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you please.
Jump in, push
You
it.
agreed with me once, so keep talking.
I thought that Margaret Qualley was really good. Like, she's, I don't think that Ruma Rulis probably would have done as good a job as her. Like, she's a star's daughter too. I know that she was in it, but she was really good and she was so natural.
what was her role?
Pussycat.
She was
Pussycat.
Pussycat, yeah. She
So
was
natural,
the one.
Yeah, her feet were showing all the time, and she had hairy armpits. Very
But I mean,
natural.
her body, her.
He was
you know,
great. No,
the
she
way-
was great playing that free-spirited young
Yes.
hippie girl. No, fantastic.
And I thought that was
And
really
listen,
good casting.
We haven't talked about Margot Robbie enough, right? I mean, she
Right.
is the center of this film, and
She's
that
the
scene
heart of
where
it.
he,
Yeah.
I thought Brad
where
Pitt was the
he's-
center of the film.
what's that?
I thought Brad Pitt was the center of the film. That's what you said before.
He was my center. I'm saying Tarantino's center.
Okay.
He was my
Let me clarify
center.
that.
That scene
He
where
had me at
shoots
hello.
her walking down, and she, remember, she picks up a hippie. Remember that woman she picks
Yeah,
up and gives
and
her
they're
a ride?
hugging each other
It
and
just
everything.
shows the effervescence of this woman, and that's what made the movie so bittersweet, because that's the woman who got destroyed by the Manson family, right? Not only that, she was 8 months
But
pregnant.
it wasn't just her. I mean,
That's not my
yeah.
point. My point
Well, I
is
know,
you're watching this whole
Yeah.
movie through Sharon, knowing that Sharon Tate eventually died, which makes it super sad. And Tarantino shooting her walking down the street with her
Right.
white boots were just
Right.
gorgeous, and then
Oh,
she takes her shoes off. I'm sure Wojo was going crazy with her feet up at the movie theater.
and he also made the choice of actually using Sharon Tate
He
footage.
used
from,
her in the film
from
and,
the Dean Martin film. Matt
This was
Helm
he was
film.
in love with Sharon Tate,
Yeah.
and very sad that she died. And this
Yeah.
was his way of just trying to change that. And what to me, we talk about that scene with Brad Pitt at the end. The one that made me just kind of, it's when the hairdresser comes down. It's like, to me, that was the gates of heaven opening up.
Yeah.
Because all you hear is a disembodied Sharon Tate voice. From this moment on, we never see her again. We see her from above as he walks up. I felt like that's Rick Dalton is like, this is heaven. They came down, they said, come on in. All these people that were up in that driveway all got killed that night in reality. So he's walking up, and it's just had a bittersweet kind of, and that's when he put up, "This is a fairy tale." That's when the title came up and said, "Once Upon a Time in Hollywood." And that was his version of a fairy tale. And to me, that was quite touching and sad.
That's an
and
interesting
just-
take I did not think of. That's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
do you remember, she has a disembodied voice at the end, and she's inviting Rick to come up. We never see their faces again because
Like Uncle Al.
that movie again.
You know what I really thought was going to happen at the end?
Thank you, Drew.
Rather than the when the credits are rolling, having the commercial, the cigarette commercial. What I would have loved is some scenes from Chinatown with him in it, with DiCaprio in it instead of Jack Nicholson, because that's what in his mind is that meeting Roman Polanski is going to
Oh
take
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the next level. I mean, they did such a great job incorporating him into
Great Escape.
Great Escape, that I would have loved to have seen him in there, and that's fabulous. I'll tell you, my problem with Tarantino is oftentimes, I appreciate his boldness, but oftentimes I feel I'm getting lost in his cultural obsessions. But this film, that's what this film was. So to me, this is the perfect project for him. It's a chance to it's really more about the time than a lot of the other films he's in. It really is. And here's something I didn't know until I watched a bunch of interviews. Is anyone aware of the fact that they, all the actors kept saying, this is just 2 days in the lives of people? That everything that happened before he came back from Italy happened in one day, and everything that when he came back from Italy happened in one day. That the action is in 2 days. I don't think that's true, because it started the night before when he met Al Pacino. But that's one thing I want to watch the film. But the actors were all very insistent that this was just 2 days in the lives of these people.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it may work. That's one thing I want to look at the next time I watch.
Yeah, I'm a big Tarantino fan. So I'm, you know, and Inglourious Bastards is actually my favorite of all of them. And this one is right up there though. This one, because again, I was steeped in the Manson stuff, and you know, I knew all about Spawn Ranch. I knew about all the kind of little details that revolved around the Manson thing.
Well, I have a point to make now.
Okay. Oh, now
And
you
I
do?
hate to
Okay.
get
Here we
revisited.
go.
Okay, here we go. But here's this little girl, and she says this. Just because she's little and she's young does not mean that, you know, he's got to stoop that low to get gratification or what do you call it, credit for that comment. Because the truth, if it comes out of the mouth of a baby or 100-year-old, is the truth. You know what I mean?
I think
Spills out. It doesn't matter.
but the irony there is what John was saying is, you know, this is the best acting I've seen in my whole life. And her whole life is 9 years.
That's what I mean. If she said
That's the
that's the
ironic-
best acting I've ever seen,
Yeah,
it would have been one thing. She didn't say that. She said this is the best acting I've ever seen in my life.
but you know
And
what?
maybe that shows
I
how
just
saying
say
that to
it's
you.
the best acting I've ever seen in my whole life.
Okay, that's fine. But
I
in
recognize
this
that. It's the
movie,
truth.
in the context
When
of the
a person-
film,
when an actor says the truth, you know, in film or on stage or whatever, it's the truth.
Debbie,
my
I
God.
love you,
One
but
of my
you're
little
wrong.
granddaughters-
Debbie,
You are wrong on this one.
said I
Debbie, your
was
doctor
fat.
obsession, your
And it was
actor
the
obsession,
truth.
your writer obsession. It's like I wish I was one of those because
That was the irony of that scene, the way he played it. Like it was like Pacino said to him, "That's the best acting I've ever seen in my life." That's how he played it, not like a 9-year-old said it who hasn't been around.
But that's
at
because
all.
that's how low he was. I mean, he did
That's
that.
what I'm
You
saying.
forget
That's
that.
my. Thank
You forget the whole scene before that where he's sitting there talking to the
and
young
she was,
girl.
and
like-
that little girl was great in that.
That's
scene.
what I'm saying. That he's, you know, the book she's reading versus the book he's reading about the loser. That, you know,
But
he's
the-
reading about himself,
Right.
and she's reading some highfalutin thing, and he's
Right.
getting even.
Right.
Isn't that just the way human people, you know, isn't that how we are? You know, like one minute we're flying, we're in our jobs or whatever we do for life, you know, to work, and I'm done with it. But, you know, when we're doing it, sometimes we do it and we go, God, I stink at this job.
I don't.
I
You know,
never
don't
say that
recall
when I'm
ever
doing
saying
this
that.
show. This show.
I don't
is
remember
always
ever saying that in my
top-notch.
entire life.
This
Well,
is the
as
best.
I understand it, this show takes a lot of work.
It does. It does.
It's a lot to
it
put
does,
this
it
together.
does.
He doesn't say much, but when
Let's
she
not-
does, boom!
Let's
Am I the only one?
let's not bring up
Jenna.
family business in front of the guest, please.
Jenna, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
As a working professional screenwriter, I'm always curious about this. One of my pet peeves in any screenplay, and this is because I worked in the business from like 97 for 3 years or so, and so almost everything I worked on was crap that you've never heard of. And whenever there was a problem, especially in the edit, the solution was always a voiceover. So that became a real pet peeve, that it was just lazy, and you know, why are we doing this? And the movie ends right. The whole last section after the the cut forward to August is Kurt Russell narrating, and it works. And I feel like Quentin Tarantino is one of those writers who makes these things that shouldn't work. And I
Well,
just
remember-
wonder. I mean, you have a different perspective as a screenwriter. You know, looking at this guy, he's only won 2 Oscars, both for screenwriting. So, what do you think of him as just as a writer, and the fact that he gets these things done and the way that he does these things?
I mean, one of my favorite films that he's written that he did not direct was True Romance.
Sure.
And that's kind of what made me fall in love with him. I know what you're saying. He's just like an anomaly, because you're right. He breaks all the rules, and he just makes it work. And I'm not quite sure. It's just like his secret sauce. It's what makes him him. So I don't mind even the movies that I really didn't care for that much, because he brings something very unique and special to this industry, to the world, I guess. He has this very special gift. So even if it doesn't quite land totally, I so appreciate it, because there is no one else like him. I don't believe so. I mean, maybe there are, but we just haven't seen them yet. You know, they haven't had anything
A lot of people
produced.
have tried. You
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of people who have tried. Well,
Oh,
which,
there were
which
so many
Tarantino, which
ripoffs.
Tarantino movies didn't land for you? I'm just really curious because he's one of those guys that people like certain movies, and the other ones they go, I don't like it as much. Which ones really landed for you, as you said?
I really liked. Again, he didn't direct it, From Dusk Till Dawn, like
Oh, sure.
the
That's
early
fun.
ones.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wasn't a huge fan of The Hateful Eight.
I'm with you on that one.
Oh,
I liked Reservoir Dogs. I Unchained, Django Unchained.
Unchained, yeah.
Yeah. Was okay.
Yeah, I didn't.
I-
I had one.
Yeah.
Although I love Christoph Waltz in that film. Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
He was great.
discovered in the
Yeah.
film. And how about Jackie Brown? Now that's
The underrated Quentin Tarantino movie.
that's a fabulous Quentin Tarantino.
I like Jackie Brown.
Yeah, because that's got more structure. That's a very structured
Mhm.
film.
That's the
based-
Tarantino film for people who don't like Tarantino.
Yeah, that's based
There
on
you
Elmer
go.
Leonard, right? Is it
Yeah,
Elmer
that's
Leonard?
why
Yeah,
I
it's an
like
Elmer
that film.
Leonard thing.
And Drew, as
You like
far as that
Elmer.
narration at
I
the
do.
end, that
Mhm.
was what's the word I'm looking for? Expositional? Is that the right word? Am I?
Yeah, it's
saying-
exposition. Yeah, but it's-
Expositional.
Yeah, that's
It
usually
was,
why
but
it's
he was
leaned on
specific-
as a technique.
But
Sure.
he was specifically doing that in this case to throw us off, because the way he was doing it, like 12:01, they were sitting on the couch. I was expecting that. Okay, he's setting us up to actually.
No, I
go
think
for
you're
it.
right.
He
Yeah.
could have done the same thing with just some supers.
Yeah, but also
Like
having Kurt
12:01.
Russell do it, because Kurt Russell's in the film.
There was narration earlier as well.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not usually look, I love that Tarantino's essentially got a repertory of actors that he keeps returning to.
Sure.
And he does really unexpected things with them. Kurt Russell is, I think it's also minor Tarantino, but Kurt Russell is a horrible villain in Death Proof.
Yeah, it's.
He is a monster who gets his, and it's really satisfying. And so watching all these people, work with him over and over is great. Obviously, Samuel L. Jackson is the one. He's the guy. But
has
again,
Christoph
it just-
Waltz done any good movie without Tarantino at the helm? I mean, I know he's done a lot, and he's a good actor. He's actually got one coming out that he directed. But
Oh yeah, I saw the trailer for that.
yeah. So
I don't know.
even,
It's hard to say because not to diminish the performance of the actors. I think Quentin Tarantino is one of those guys like Spike Lee makes a lot of movies that are really over his career they're really uneven, but he can direct the shit out of acting.
Yeah.
And Steven Soderbergh, I've mentioned this before. Steven Soderbergh is a miracle worker. What he got out of Jennifer Lopez, who's not a good actress, in Out of Sight. I mean, it's amazing. So again, the material and the skill that he gives you, that doesn't mean Christoph Waltz doesn't do anything else, but Christoph Waltz has 2 Oscars for being in 2 Tarantino movies. That to me almost says as much about Tarantino as it does about Christoph
completely
Waltz.
about Tarantino. But Tarantino had to pick him
Right.
and use him in that first one. It's just
He
amazing.
makes some oddball choices, though.
Now, Quentin says he's only going to make 10 films.
I
Yeah, he
this
said
might-
that for a long time.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think he's going to just stick to that, or
Well, he's also said, are we going to count Kill Bill as 1 movie or 2 movies? That kind of thing. So, and
I
there's
love
also,
Kill Bill.
oh God, that movie is so fun.
A lot of
I
feet
loved
in that one too, Wojo.
So in
Lot
the
of
count of
feet in
9, is Kill Bill 1 or 2 then?
Right, exactly.
That's what he's saying.
How
It's
many-
2.
how do
It's
we
actually
count it?
2, but it's
How do we
counts as
count
1,
it?
I guess. Yeah, and
Kill Bill-
David
Kill Bill's a-
Carradine in that film, and
Yep.
it's just.
Mhm.
Yeah, we
I
haven't
love
even
the
talked
guy.
about.
I love the guy. I
We haven't
saw
even talked
Reservoir
about-
Dogs the day it came out.
We haven't
No
even talked
idea
about
who
what
Quentin
he
Tarantino was.
what he was first known for. One of the things that he was really known for was taking actors that were kind of done and giving them new life,
Well,
or
that's what
giving
he
them a
did
new,
to-
like John Travolta, and
Travolta,
Robert
yeah.
Forster and
And
all
Jackie
Yeah.
Brown.
Yeah,
the
we were
guy,
talking
Jackie
about that,
Brown.
how
yeah,
John
Robert
Travolta's
Forster.
career was
Yeah,
running
and
right.
that's
Did you ever see that scene he did? And he didn't direct it. Love Me, I think it's called, where he explains how Top Gun's actually a gay film.
yeah,
Have you ever seen that scene?
yeah, that's
It's
funny.
unbelievable.
What
Yeah,
about
I mean,
Destiny?
it is a passionate
You didn't realize
film
it was a gay
about
film?
Top
What's
Gun
that?
is passionate.
Ralph, you didn't realize
I
that Top
don't-
Gun's a gay film?
I didn't care.
Guys
but-
rolled up on the beach flexing,
Well, and they're
Come on.
playing volleyball in jeans.
Sounds like a
Kinda
Movie
got
Strange
jeans and no
episode.
shirt, but
If
no,
only
listen,
Brad
watch
Pitt
it.
were in
I
that
think it's called
scene.
Love
Yeah.
Me or Sleep With Me or something. He's just at a party and someone asks him about Top Gun and he goes on this 10-minute rant about Top Gun that's just brilliant, and it's all Tarantino. It's just him. And so when
that used to be the way I thought about him. Is he's the guy who will literally have a speech in his movie about movies, and he's
Yeah.
evolved into someone who the actual movies that he makes are as about other movies in a beautiful way. and this is an example, and Inglorious Bastards and all these things. And so to watch, he's done quote unquote only 9 movies, and he's been doing this for what, 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
And, every one is worth watching. And there are not a lot of people that can say that in any field, never mind in something as crazy
No,
as
it's so
filmmaking. So,
And he's like
Also-
the worst actor too.
he's
But you love
terrible.
watching him.
Terrible.
That one
Yeah.
I noticed. I did notice that.
He wasn't bad in From Dusk Till Dawn. He was actually kind of creepy.
There was
That's
a
true,
film
yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't bad in that one.
Yeah.
or something that he was horrible in.
well, he's terrible. He's terrible in Pulp
Well,
Fiction.
in Pulp
He's
Fiction,
terrible
it
in
was so
Django
He
bad.
just seems
Unchained.
excited.
Didn't he
He
do
seems
in Australia?
excited to say the N word and
Right.
to talk about his wife. And I was like, I think I'd rather hear from his wife. She sounds a
And
lot
he
more
plays the
interesting than this
Australian
Funny
asshole.
Django
situation.
Unchained, right? That gets
Right.
blown up with the dynamite. So I mean,
Right,
he
with that
tried.
wonderful Australian accent. Right.
Right. So anyway, anybody have any final thoughts on?
Yes, I
Okay.
just want to
Oof.
say this. Quentin Tarantino, I have changed my mind. He is pure genius.
Wow.
Oh,
And I'll go revisit all his films because Sean loves him and Jenna loves him, and and you guys mostly like. The only one, Michelle, you don't really like.
Michelle, don't roll your eyes. No, come on.
I hear his 10th film is a remake of Slapshot.
I would see that.
No, I think Michelle would watch this again before she watched Slapshot.
I
Well, he
will
was going to
watch
do
this
some
again.
Star Trek.
He was going to
talking about
reboot
doing
Star Trek, but they thought his script was a little too
Well,
off the mark.
Here's to Quentin Tarantino. I really like him.
There
Yeah.
you go. So he can keep making movies, Debbie.
Oh man, we're not done with him. He can't quit now. He's got to
know.
go do some more stuff.
Now, what do you
He
think?
needs to teach a master class on screenwriting
Exactly,
or something.
I
directing.
don't even know if he could. He's one of the that's
true.
who he is. He's so
Right.
natural. Like I would want to see that class. Don't get me wrong.
I would love
I
to
would
meet
be
him.
fascinated, but you kind of picture him as he's born behind the counter of a video store.
Right.
Yeah, don't
And
you
he
think
knows
if you
more
didn't know
about
who he
movies
was,
than
you'd be
anybody
annoyed?
else, and then he gets to make movies that everybody else gets and wants
Yeah.
to watch. And I don't
Mhm.
even know how you teach that. He's an
Well, I'd like to
intuitive
sit
artist.
and listen to him. Like he loves to talk. There's no question
Yes.
he loves to talk about his process and what he's doing.
Invite
he's
him
like
on
Kevin,
the podcast,
he's like Kevin Smith,
Ralph.
but he knows how to use a camera.
Right.
Well, I chose Jenna in place of Quentin.
Oh, isn't
big
that
shoes to fill.
nice? Wow.
He has some big shoes to fill.
Does she-
Wow.
oh my gosh,
Jenna.
she writes just gripping.
Jenna, what are you in the middle of now? Anything you want to talk about?
I actually just came up with a concept for a new script, but I have to finish one that I'm working on with Sean that we have to finish before I start something new.
Oh.
So, but
Who's the drag on that one? Which one of you guys is dragging?
I think it's my turn right now. I have an 8 and a 10-year-old, and
Oh, geez.
our business
And
is
they're
a little
tearing your
busy
house
right
apart.
now. So
I don't know how you
it's-
do anything.
But I am going to finish it because I really do like the script. It's great.
Is it a horror story about young children?
It's a romantic comedy set in the world of reality television.
Oh, nice.
That's
Yeah.
It's
all right,
really
well.
creative.
But I think that
Very
Tarantino would I think that if there was a master class, he would tell writers to just don't worry about the rules. Like just go for it. And whatever you're afraid to, whatever you really want to do, but you're afraid to because, you feel vulnerable or, because with screenwriting, there are so many rules when you're first starting out, that you kind of bogs you down. But I think he would say, just go for it. And
Yeah, it's
that's
easy
what
to
he
say
tells
that
his
when you're
actors.
Tarantino, though.
Well,
It's
you
easy to
mentioned
say that when
you
you're
mentioned
Tarantino
True
because he can do
Romance.
whatever he wants.
Here's the thing I think with actors. You mentioned True Romance. That was early Tarantino, right? And he just wrote the script for that. And I heard him talk about the scene where Christopher Walken confronts Dennis Hopper in the RV
Yep.
when he's questioning him. And they did Tarantino's script verbatim. And Tarantino couldn't believe that these guys would do that. They changed one word. I think the word eggplant was the one thing that they added that wasn't in his script. And he ended up loving that. But he was saying that you have these great actors who took my script and they didn't want to change a thing. That tells you a lot about how they looked at his writing.
Yes.
And like
Yeah.
the actors know good writing. There's no question because they've seen it all.
Mhm.
So
I think in
found that-
addition, if Tarantino did do a master class, a third of it would be spent on feet.
Could
He
be.
does have an obsession with feet. I don't know what
Well,
that
does.
is, but yeah.
I like what you said about Jenna. What you said about him. He probably would tell people to do what you want to do. Like I don't see him sitting through Sid Field and Robert McKee seminars and stuff like that. And I think like if you look at his first movie, Reservoir Dogs, it's a fine film. I had not seen it. Pulp Fiction came out, exploded. Then I went back and I was like, oh, I got to see more of this stuff. That movie is basically just kind of a riff on a Hong Kong movie called City on Fire with Chow Yun-fat, which is in its own way an excellent movie. But he said, I love movies, and he took a movie that already existed, and it's not fair to call it a remake. It's like it's his own thing, and then that's his whole career. And that if that's your thing, I mean, we know, I mean, my God, what was Pulp Fiction, 94, 95? So there were at least another 10 or 15 years of knockoffs after that were just, a lot of them were awful. But to see somebody figure himself out
Yeah.
and then go for it is really exciting.
And the
Yeah.
scene that made that did that, the scene that said, oh my God, this is the guy, was not the action. It was not the crime stuff. It was the scene in the diner where they're going around that diner and all the characters, you figure out who everybody is in that one scene where he's talking about Madonna and the tipping and Steve Buscemi, Mr. Pink doesn't want to. All these things are being in one 10-minute scene. And it's just, that was it. He was done. Then it's, he does Pulp Fiction. It's through the roof.
I want to say one thing about the voiceover though. When I teach screenwriting at the university, one of my students was like, somebody used voiceover and I was showing, and they're like, we've been told by a number of teachers here, you can't use voiceover in the script. And I just told them, I said, anybody here who's told you that you can't use voiceover is an idiot, unless it's the department head.
Yeah.
I can't afford to lose my job. And I point out, look at Goodfellas, which is not only voiceover, but multiple voiceover. And some of it doesn't even, like the wife's voiceover doesn't even start until page 30. And that won the Oscar for best screenplay. I mean,
but Drew's right. In the wrong hands, narration is just, it's in the way.
Isn't Goodfellas the movie that has maybe the greatest single moment of narration ever, where he's narrating his own death as a voiceover, and then when he gets hit with a baseball bat, his voiceover goes or something like that. I mean, like you can do really creative things with that stuff, and Tarantino's one of those guys that does it. That's why I said, you shouldn't use voiceover if that's your crutch. If you wrote yourself into a place where you say, I don't think it's clear why people are here, you shouldn't say the reason that people are here is this, or they woke up in the morning and they wanted to do that, because it doesn't feel like you figured it out. If you've got a script that works, you've solved problems and it's made choices, and that's why it works. Right. So Tarantino is, he's one of the best writers working today.
Yeah. One of the better ways to solve it, if you saw the Steve McQueen film Bullet, is because they knew that film was impossible to follow. They chose shots of people in a distance walking, and then they just added dialogue between them that explained everything. Or a shot of a car driving, and you hear the people in there talking. So it's like, well, we got this driving footage. Let's just have them explain it.
Well, look, I mean, some movies don't even have scripts. The greatest film ever made, Mad Max Fury Road, was basically storyboards and ideas long before it was an actual.
Well, think about the way Tarantino used exposition in Hollywood. That scene at the Hollywood party where Steve McQueen lays out all the information. She's dating Roman Polanski because she likes dating short guys, and JC Bring is the hairdresser, and that's all exposition. But in Tarantino's hands, it becomes part of the whole narrative, and it's fantastic.
Cool when Steve McQueen's doing it.
And
that Damian Lewis was great. I thought
Sharon
he was great.
Tate has a type, and when you realize that type, and you go, "Oh my gosh, I have that type too."
What short
what?
What you're saying is I got a shot. That's what you're saying.
God.
Short, stubby guy.
I think she's saying she likes short guys. I don't know what she was just saying.
Like with Sean, that boyishness. That's why he's 6 years. And John's a young man too. Yeah. Your husband is a younger husband. Right?
Oh boy.
Who, Jenna's husband?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh.
My husband is 7 years younger than me.
Oh,
and
whoa.
Oh, good for you.
Oh boy. What's your name again? No.
Yeah. His name is Jameson, so we're Jenna and Jameson.
Oh, get out of here.
Nice. Wow, nicely done.
And that
was
friends,
fun
is the
when we
best
first got
part of
married.
this entire podcast.
Jenna Jameson has great feet, by the way. Great feet.
Jenna, Jenna,
Yeah,
can
yeah.
Jameson pop his head in?
Yeah, he's right here.
Oh.
Jameson, hi.
Hey, how are you?
Hey.
He's 22, huh? Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, you're so nice. You're so
Oh,
nice.
he's an actor.
Well, I'm
Whoever
looking
said
at your Emmy. I'm so
Look,
impressed by your
that's
Emmy.
the best
why.
acting I've seen in my whole life, right there. You know what?
Oh,
I
one
can
other
shut you
thing.
off
You don't know anything, Ralph. You're not an actor.
I got to mention one.
or a
We
doctor.
didn't go over this scene, and that is the scene Leonardo DiCaprio at the hullabaloo.
Oh, yeah. That was great.
That whole that from the
Dancing.
trailer though, that's not in there. Some of it is, but not all of it. Not what you see in the trailer.
Oh, that's
Yeah, no, listen, I'm not saying he didn't do a great job. I just think the other guy did a better job.
Well, yeah, because he never took his shirt off.
There you go.
That might have, I don't know.
Yeah.
And what about
I
DiCaprio?
don't know if that would have helped the
He
situation.
looked good in every style.
Yeah.
Like when he had the mustache in Lancer,
Yeah.
his normal style. And then I thought his best style was when he came back from Italy with the new hair.
Oh, with his,
Yeah.
yeah. And
No,
his
when the
fashion
bear
sense.
attack was his
Fucking
best
life, I love
acting
the
I've ever seen.
The bear
Don't get me
attack.
started on that terrible movie,
In my,
What movie?
The Revenant.
The Revenant.
Where he gets raped by the bear?
Okay,
Doesn't
that's
get
a
raped,
different
he just gets
podcast.
mauled.
So let's
And
move
there
on.
it is.
Oh my god! I knew you'd
Always,
work it in
Sean.
somehow.
Always bring
You know, I tell you, I was watching The Revenant and I'm like, why do people like this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Yeah,
get it either.
it's
but
bad.
that was a pity.
not
I think that was a
stood the test
pity
of
Oscar.
time.
See, he should
No
have.
one talks about it.
If he
Well,
didn't
especially
get
because
that
it was up
Oscar,
against
we
Mad
should
Max
rate this
Fury
movie
Road.
now,
so
Ralph.
what
What do
the
you
hell,
think?
man.
Should we rate it?
if he
Wait a
didn't,
minute,
if he
I wanna
didn't
tell
win for
Drew
Revenant, he would have won for
On Twitter
this one.
today, I put out, a link to Mad Max Fury Road
You're
saying
doing the
that
Lord's work.
it was the best movie ever made.
Yep.
And someone dared to say it's not even the best Road Warrior movie.
Listen, people are entitled to their
That's
own
true.
opinions,
I
even
agree
when they're
with that.
wrong. It's not my
Road
place to
Warrior
say you
was
shouldn't
better.
have
I
the
like
wrong
Road Warrior
opinion.
better than that movie.
There's a good example. That's wrong, but you can think that. It's
No,
All
okay.
right,
No.
well, let's rate this puppy. Although I think we know. So Jenna, the
Does
way
Jen-
we rate it's either yippee ki yay or yippee ki nay. I mean, that's good stuff, right? So
Very
we'll
easy.
start with Jenna. Jenna,
Except we have other variations.
Jenna, you got-
Yippee-ki-yay.
Ah,
there
I
we
love it. Okay.
She can come back, you guys.
All right, I'd say yippee ki yay.
I want to hear from Brad and Wojo.
Yeah, well, we know.
Yippee-ki-yay, a little above that.
Okay, yippee kind meh. All right.
We know
Wojo?
where she
Yeah.
is.
Yippee-ki- Ugh.
I give it 4 barrels.
Oh, you're still on that. That's awesome.
Okay,
I give it
now-
a yippee ki
There is a
Love this movie.
podcast called Four Barrels or something. There is a Jaws podcast out there. I found.
Yeah,
Drew-
so
Drew-
check it out. Subscribe to
We're
We're
that
not allowed to talk
podcast.
about Jaws.
Hit the notification button on their podcast and share it.
Yeah, I should do that. Drew, what did you say? Did you rate it?
I didn't. I would say not only is it yippee ki yay, I actually liked it more returning to it and
Ah,
watching it.
I
again.
did too, and I loved it the first time.
yeah.
I got the record album. That Vanilla
Like
Fudge
I said,
song
I
at the end
tolerated
is
it more
good.
this time. So
Kills
You
me.
again, great for the movie poster, Brad. I tolerated it more.
He's a real. He's
maybe
a
I'll
real
maybe I'll give it a
blurb
yippee
generator.
ki if I watch it 15 times,
I
but that
do.
is never going to happen.
This
So-
time, it didn't
John,
quite make me want to
I have
barf.
never watched anything 15 times. So
I-
Jenna,
Listen,
Jenna,
I-
thanks
Oh,
for
I
joining us.
Yeah, Jenna,
Thank
nice
you.
job, by the way.
Hang on.
Nicely
Thank you,
done.
Jenna.
We're
Thank
about
you
to
very
talk
much.
about what we're going to do on the next show. If you want to stay, you're welcome to stay. That's fine.
Oh, it's riveting.
wanna-
It is riveting.
This is a riveting part.
I have an idea.
Oh,
I know.
Okay.
oh
It doesn't have to be
everyone,
the next show.
everyone
It
gets
can
quiet.
It can be whenever. But Ralph, stop!
I'm listening.
You're doing that on purpose.
I'm listening.
He always
So I was
backs
talking to
out.
my drum teacher about the podcast, and he said, "You know, it would be interesting." And I said, "What?" And he said, "To discuss a movie in which music is basically another character, because of how music is presented within the context of a movie."
We just did
And
a
I
Hard Day's
said-
Night.
Like Hard Day's Night would be like.
I thought he was. I thought he was going to say we got to do Whiplash, which is fine.
Oh,
It's a
great
good
movie.
Whiplash.
He's
How about,
he's never even
Birdman?
watched it.
Birdman used that drummer. in
No, he
Birdman.
heard a lot of people in the
I'm a
in the
dick.
business said it was just full of such crap and such,
a Whiplash.
yeah.
It's got one of the
Hey,
greatest
Bubby.
endings
from a
ever.
musician,
I liked it.
I like
From
the
a
movie.
musician's perspective.
Yeah.
We can
You
we
know?
can look at that. I mean, I think music plays a part in tons of films. I don't know if it's specifically,
But-
like, I mean, Hard Day's Night was a good example of that was,
Well, for
Specifically.
example, if you've seen Baby Driver,
yeah,
music is
Sure.
definitely.
I mean, they do a lot of like choreography with the music.
Well,
for
if
the
you notice,
scenes,
movie
like, the
trailers now
movements
are all
very-
using the music, and gunshots are lining up to beats.
Yeah.
well, I was just. It
It
was
was
just
fun.
an
It was
a
idea
good-
to
we'll table
bring
that.
him on,
It's
but
a
we don't
good
have to.
idea.
Jenna,
Let's
you have
add
any
it to the
ideas
wheel.
for our next podcast?
Let's add it to the wheel of fun.
Jenna's like, what am I still doing?
Oh yeah, actually, Sean and I were. I was like, sorry, I didn't hear you say my name. Dazed and Confused.
Oh yeah,
Seen
great
that one.
movie.
She grew
With
up in that-
future governor of Texas, Matthew McConaughey. Yeah.
No. Here's what we're
Let's
going to
take
do
our
on this
shirts
one.
off.
I'm going to go.
Let's
We're
take
not
my
going to
shirt
do
off.
the challenge, right? We're not going to do 3 films, but I am going to spin a wheel that comes up with a theme,
Theme
and
or
we're going to do
genre?
a theme show like we did with the vampires. We're going to
Is
all
it
bring
gonna all
films.
be Drew?
We'll all bring themes.
I mean, that's not a bad idea.
Drew, I just ignored that. Don't worry.
It's okay, buddy.
It'll be based
Oh,
on whatever
Drew.
theme spins, okay?
I think
And we
they're
all
set-
bring
Well,
films
Joe, I
as
think they're setting
examples.
us up for a bit. I'm not sure.
I think they are.
This is a bit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Jealousy is
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
It's just.
Drew's
like,
choice.
we're like Cliff and we're like Brad Pitt and what's his name?
Brad Pitt is no Drew.
I don't
When
know.
you said Cliff, I thought you meant like
Thank you,
Cliff
Brad.
and Norm on Cheers, and that's pretty
Yeah,
much
that's-
like
yeah,
that's better.
That's more
All right, let
realistic.
me
more
just do this
accurate.
real quick so Jenna
All
can
right.
see some
Jenna,
of the magic
you're
that
going to be
goes
so
on
glad
here.
you stuck around for
Yeah,
this
this is-
because
Oh,
this is money
shit.
right here.
Jenna, you
Tell
should have
your
got off. Here
friends,
we go.
girl.
You guys seeing that?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
All right.
that's a lot of
Here we
subject.
go.
Come on, Bad Nuns.
Biography.
Biography.
Okay.
Well, wait a
What are
minute.
we
That
gonna
would be
do
the
with that?
biography of a movie.
Now what do we do?
No. Each one of us brings a few movie biographies that we want to talk about. It's like the vampire theme. Do you guys remember how we did the vampires?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
when it says movie biography,
I don't.
what
You know
does
what?
that-
One of you guys sent this to me. I didn't write that, so
Well,
I
should
don't know.
But I would say here's an example. Like one of the movies I'll bring for this movie
Like
biography
real world, like yeah. go ahead.
is there's an actress from the 60s called Sharon Tate, and there was a movie about her called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that was sort of a riff on her life. So that would be the kind of movie I could
No,
bring.
how about
About a film about a fictional character, but it's a biography of the fictional character.
could be that. It could be a real time. Let's think about it. Okay, you want me to spin another one? You guys don't like this?
No, that's
No, I
People
don't
versus
care.
Larry
So
Flint.
like a
Let's do it.
bio-
Yeah, there's some good
kinda
ones.
thing.
There's some good ones. By the way, before we get off, did you anybody see those other Sharon Tate movies that came out?
I've seen 2
Around-
of them.
Some,
Oh, you mean about the murders?
yeah, they.
No,
I
no,
forget.
Jesus
there was someone.
Christ. No, I didn't watch about the murders
Yeah,
because
but where
There's one
Sharon
that's supposed
Tate.
to be horrendous that I have.
Unless
Sharon
it was
Tate
Sharon
turns-
Tate in a
Sharon Tate
musical,
turns the
John didn't
tables.
watch it.
no.
Sharon Tate
No.
ends up killing all the people.
Oh,
Oh,
I don't know what
Yeah,
that one is.
So anyway, all right. Well, so movie biography. I guess it could be a fictional biography or
okay, or a real one.
like Drew was saying, the Larry
Yeah.
Flint film.
And we're just
Okay.
supposed to bring movies that we just a couple if we want to talk about a couple.
Yes.
Do you guys remember the vampire one we did?
Yeah, I think you were in
Oh, so maybe Wojo was
Vertigo
not there.
Land at the time, weren't you?
Okay, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, awesome.
Jenna,
All right.
Jenna, you
No,
can go
wait.
now. Poor
Jenna,
Jenna.
thank you.
Okay.
And it is 5 minutes of your life
No,
you
no,
can't
Kids,
get
our
back.
kids are going, get off that thing.
No,
We got things
because I
to
was
do."
on by myself.
Hey, thanks for joining us. It was really fun having you on.
Yes, thank you, Jenna.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Bye.
it.
And we do me a
Bye,
favor
Jenna.
if you watch the podcast, like it. 'cause
Stay on,
people
Jenna.
on the show don't. So would
Yeah.
you please like it? Just hit a thumbs up.
Just watch it would be more than some people on the show.
Yeah, you gotta watch it at least.
Yes, of course.
All right. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Jenna.
Bye, Jenna. Thanks.